Now we'll be talking about the reproductive system. By now, I hope the things are clear. Just in case you've got any doubts, you can ask me right now. From the urinary system. So we saw how the kidney was formed, how the bladder is formed, and how the ureter is formed. There's no other third, fourth thing there. These three things you should know how they form. So part of the kidney was being formed from the ureter, part of it was formed from the metanephros mesenchyme, the mesoderm. And now starts the development of the entire genital system. That means I'm going to talk about the ovaries, the tubes, the uterus, the cervix, the vagina, and vaginas, both parts, not just that, labia majora, labia minora, and the clitoral end. And simultaneously, I'll be dealing with the male counterparts as well. But I'll just tell you at the very outset, guys, you are gynecologists, so you do not have to delve a lot into the male perspective, but you should know some basic things, at least those things which are characteristically different in males and the female developmental systems. So first, I'll tell you this chart is very, very important. Try to understand certain things that I've tried to emphasize over here. Initially, the gonads are indifferent. Till about week 5, 6, the gonads are indifferent. And it's not important, it's not easily understandable which is going to develop into testes, which is going to develop into ovary. But then what happens is there is a SRY gene on the Y chromosome, only on the Y chromosome, obviously, which is absent in case of female fetuses, right? So what it does is basically, it is the one which differentiates the gonads from, each other by the SRY expression. So the testes, they develop the Leydig cells and the Sertoli cells, and the ovaries start developing the thicker cells and the granulosa cells. The Leydig cells, they give out testosterone. And what will happen, I'll tell you then. And the Sertoli cells, they give you anti-Mullerian duct hormone. So now two things be very clear about. The mesonephric duct, which is the important duct in males, mesonephric males, is also the Wolffian duct. Okay? So don't get me started on the mnemonic on that. So Wolffian duct, mesonephric duct, males, remember that they're all together, right? And why are they formed is because of the development of anti-Mullerian hormone at very high quantity, which kind of regresses the Mullerian duct development. Mullerian duct development starts in the females, also called as the paramesonephric duct, also called as the Mullerian duct in case of females, right? So Wolffian duct and Mullerian duct, mesonephric duct and paramesonephric duct. These are the two important things that you should remember. I'll repeat it again. So males, mesonephric duct, Wolffian duct. Females, paramesonephric duct and Mullerian duct. These three things you should remember. Now, so anti-Mullerian duct stops the formation of Mullerian duct. What is formed is the Wolffian duct, and Wolffian duct forms the epididymis, the ductus deferens, seminal design. And what does testosterone do? All the secondary sexual characteristics of the male. And this testosterone is reduced by 5-alpha reductase to dihydrotestosterone, and that is responsible for all male external genitalia, because even they are indifferent. External genitalia, but the moment this DHT, dihydrotestosterone, is there, it differentiates it from the male to the female genitalia. Why is it important? Is because of CAH. If you were there in my lecture, congenital adrenal hyperplasia, where there is no development of these hormones. So there you have ambiguous external genitalia. Inside might be everything may be okay, but externally, since this is not produced properly, the external male genitalia are not formed properly, or there is virilization. So, or vice versa, right? Now, what happens to the female side? There is very less amount of testosterone, but the anti-Mullerian hormone is not so much, as a result of which Mullerian duct is formed, and Mullerian duct forms right from tubes to the uterus to the cervix to the upper 2/3 of vagina. Here comes another very important applied embryology, that upper 2/3 of vagina is embryologically different from the lower 2/3 of vagina, which is why, if you remember in cervical carcinoma, the spread of upper 2/3 vagina is taken at a separate stage as compared to that in case of lower 1/3 of vagina, if you remember that. So this is the embryology, applied embryology. With this thing in mind, we move on to the development of gonads. Now, if you remember, we spoke about the nephrogenic ridge, and then we spoke about the gonadal ridge, right? So nephrogenic ridge is here and the gonadal ridge is right ventromedial to it. So what happens is now how these, gonads are formed. They are formed from the proliferation of the epithelium and a condensation of underlying mesenchyme. That's all rubbish. What's important is that slowly the primordial germ cells, they appear at an early stage of development in the endodermal cells in the wall of yolk sac, which is pretty close to the allantois. Now, can you imagine that we're talking about mesoderm, but the origin starts from the endoderm? So the cells of the primordial germ cells are actually endodermal in origin. They're coming from the endodermal cell of the wall of the yolk sac, and they migrate slowly with amoeboid movement along the dorsal mesentery of the hindgut. I'll just show you through the video. So just remember what I'm saying and I'll show you in the video. So they're migrating by amoeboid movement along the dorsal mesentery of the hindgut to slowly arrive at the gonadal ridge going along the allantois. Okay, which is the reason why, guys, the secondary of the ovary, they are found very easily in the GI tract because they're so closely knit. In fact, the primordial cells, they are arriving from the endodermal cells. Okay, in the yolk sac. Just see this video now. This is here the yolk sac. This is, can you see, this is the part of allantois. Can you see? And this over here, somewhere here is going to be the gonadal ridge. So they are going to be migrating from here to the gonadal ridge. See. How does it look in the cross section? Have a look at that now. The same thing they're going to show. This is over here, the yolk sac. This is the dorsal mesentery. And can you see the small dots? This blue dots, can you see? These blue dots, they are the primordial germ cells. And over here, this is the genital ridge. And over here, this is the urogenital ridge. Okay? They're both in close connection. So this is the gonadal ridge, the genital ridge, and this is the urogenital ridge. And these are the primordial germ cells coming from the yolk sac through the allantois. And then what happens is they deposit in the gonadal ridge. See, slow amoeboid movements through the dorsal mesentery from the primitive gut. Can you imagine? Can you see the movement? And they slowly start settling down the gonadal ridge. They form the gonads, the early gonads. Okay. And now we'll talk about a little bit about testes, a little bit about ovaries, but how are the Sertoli cells and Leydig cells formed? They're all being composed of the early, primitive germ layer of germ cells. So you don't have to, nobody's going to question you from what exact layer is Leydig cell coming up and from what is Sertoli cells coming up. All you have to know is the difference between the testes and the ovarian origins. So this SRY gene on the Y chromosome is the one which is responsible for these, gonads to differ differently and behave differently and become different, start production of different hormones. What happens is that during the development, there is a formation of tunica albuginea, which is a very dense layer formed in the testes. Okay, slowly the cells of Sertoli, cells of Leydig, they start forming. And then by the 8th week of gestation, the Leydig cells start production of testosterone, which is responsible for so many things, from the secondary sexual characteristics to the external genitalia to the development of male fetus, And what happens is that under the influence of the Y, this indifferent gonad develops into testes. But there are certain differences between the ovary and the testes. Like, for example, you have a thick tunica albuginea in testes, not that much in case of ovary. Medullary cords are very important and nicely developed in testes, and cortical cords, they develop more in the females. So they are actually, testes and ovary, they are both derived from the same gonadal primordium, but there are certain changes which take place in both of them because owing to the development of different hormones. Now, a little word about the development of testes, and remember that mesonephric duct has a very important role in the development of the testes, and the present day testes as we see it, mostly because of the development, differential, development of mesonephric duct, and more so of less of gonadal development. See, everywhere they're starting right from scratch, right from the point they left you at. Okay. So appreciate that thing, that you're getting to see the same thing, again and again, so that you're able to correlate every time, different development takes place. As you can see, this is the mesonephric duct. Keep an eye on the mesonephric duct, because that is going to now develop and attach itself to this primitive gonad. That's how it looks on a, from top, from above. Did you see what happened? What just happened? I'll just take just a minute. I'll just get you back there. So, retitestes and all these different arterioles, efferent ductules, they're all being formed from what? The mesonephric duct. And here you have the Sertoli cells, the Leydig cells. See, outside you have the Leydig cells, inside you have the Sertoli cells. These are the germinal cells which will finally form, spermatogonia, spermatozoa, spermatids. Remember, I told you in the first lecture on embryology. And now see, this is what I wanted to show you. This red thing is the paramesonephric duct. This purple thing is the mesonephric duct. This, of course, is the retitestes and the communication with the efferent ductules. And then this epididymis and this vas and all is going to develop from the mesonephric duct. The paramesonephric duct is slowly going to vanish, because I'm not talking about a female fetus. There is testis over here, so there's going to be more emphasis on the mesonephric duct as a collecting duct. So this is the forming testis, and this is the mesonephric duct, the purple one. These are mesonephric tubules, and the paramesonephric duct slowly going to wither away. See, it's disappearing. Yes. Now, and it's remaining as what? Some part of, epididymis, some part of epididymis, and this over here, if you can see, is mostly the efferent ductules, the epididymis over here, the vas deferens, the seminal vesicles. So appendix of the testis now, that's being formed by the paramesonephric duct, looks like, and these are the efferent ductules, and this is the epididymis, and mesonephric duct is going and going. Tunic albuginea, see that? Okay. And so this is what it looks like. Finally, at the present day testis, this is what the retitestis is. These are the efferent ductules opening into the epididymis. Epididymis opening into the you have the head and the tail of epididymis, if you can see this, and this is opening into the vas deferens, and then vas deferens is going to go finally as a collecting ductule of the testis, basically formed by the mesonephric duct. I don't think I have to explain any further. And then finally the ovaries formed. Okay, so there is nothing very specific in ovary. There are more of cortical cords which penetrate the underlying mesenchyme but remain close to the surface. Okay, and then you have these germ cells slowly start developing, which are called as oogonia. And let's just see the formation of the ovaries. Again, see, starting from scratch, from where we left you off, the gonads, the primitive gonads. See, now this is the mesonephric duct, this is the paramesonephric duct, this is the developing ovary, and how ovary develops separately, different from testis. Now clearly it's written degenerating mesonephric duct. Okay, primordial follicles, degenerating rete ovaries. Now even this is not required. We do not need a collecting system for ovaries. because whatever oocyte is going to be formed is going to automatically kind of burst out. So what we do need is basically the tube. We do not need a collecting system. I hope you do remember this: primary oocyte, the follicle cells, the interstitial cells. See this. This was almost similar when I was trying to teach you about the testes. And now see how differently the ovaries are formed. Again, this orange thing is the paramesonephric duct, parallel to the mesonephric duct. Mesonephric duct is the purple one. And now see what happens. See, it got vanished. Mesonephric duct slowly vanishes away. What remains is just the ureteric bud, which forms the ureter. And finally, you see that this orange one is taking the, stage. And if it kind of these mesonephric tubules, they do remain. They form these parafuron, epifuron, stuff like that. This is also asked. So just remember that. Sorry, what was being formed? The mesentery. See, that's ovary. These are the fimbria, uterine tube. Can you see that? And the mesentery is formed by the mesonephric duct. Okay. Right. So, well, I don't think we need to go and study this again. And now, guys, a concept about what is gubernaculum. It's actually not of much importance, but gubernaculum sometimes, can be asked as a small question in one of your MCQs. Not, of course, can be asked in DNBs. I have not seen it. But yes, the concept is important because it's a very small concept. You should know about it. It's just nothing but an attachment of the peritoneal fold. Okay, it's a fold of peritoneum and it attaches to the caudal end of the gonads. Okay, now I'm not talking testes, I'm not talking ovary. It's attaching itself to the gonads. Remember how close the coelomic epithelium was to the gonadal ridge or to the nephrogenic ridge? What happens is that it attaches itself to the this part of the caudal end of the gonads. So when the gonads they migrate away, a part of it forms a ligament, right? So that ligament is actually the ovarian ligament, okay? The ovarian ligament and the round ligament in the present day-to-day of the humans is actually the old gubernaculum. And if you ask me what happens with the males, it continues to be called as the gubernaculum. So in case of females, the cranial part forms the ovarian ligament, the caudal part forms the round ligament. That's it. That's about gubernaculum. Nothing further. And now a little bit more about the genital ducts, Mullerian duct, Wolffian duct, and let's see this video to understand better, because I think I've spoken enough about the two things. So see how it happens. Just see the markings. This is very important. Again, the red one is the paramesonephric duct. The purple one is the mesonephric duct. It's giving an outgrowth, which is the ureter, which has just gone and attached itself to the metanephros, the kidney. Slowly, the kidney will migrate from being sacral to the lumbar area and see what happens to the others. Can you see that this is the urogenital sinus over here, the present day bladder, and the mesonephric duct is attaching itself here. Posteriorly, it's going to form the trigon, and this is the paramesonephric duct. Okay, that's also kind of having its attachment to the urogenital sinus as well. Slowly the testicular area is coming down along with the mesonephric duct and forming what? The epididymis and the ductus deferens. And then next is about the male accessory sex glands, because that's also important. So this I have not spoken much. I just spoke a little about it. Now we're coming down to that part in which, the bladder along with the, this urethra will be formed, and not just urethra, prostatic gland will be given away, and the bulbourethral gland will also come over here. So this is definitely the urogenital sinus, this part of allantois. Slowly this is going to be withering away, and this part will remain as bladder, and this part will be forming the urethra in case of both males and females. Let's see. This is the pelvic portion of the urogenital sinus. Okay, this is the caudal portion, the cranial portion, which is forming the bladder. This is the pelvic portion of the urogenital sinus. This is the anorectal canal, and this over here is the mesonephric duct. This purple one is the mesonephric duct. Can you see now the prostate gland being formed? And this is another outpouching which is given: the bulbourethral gland, the prostatic gland, and the seminal vesicle little above, which is where the mesonephric duct. Okay, mesonephric duct is the one which gives away. Ductus deferens, epididymis, seminal vesicle.